All right, we're live now.
Hi, everybody.
Let's see. Let's see. Let me check real quick and see if
That's weird. It just went back to saying there was an error loading your app, but only whenever I feel like you did something. Oh, maybe because you went to the control room? Bet that's why.
okay. Now I'm watching us live on the YouTube right now,
Yeah,
and it whenever you talk, it shows you.
it does. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So sorry everybody if you're tuning in to this and we're still learning.
Just now figuring it out.
Yeah, so let me actually see if I can't send out some invites here.
Does it tell you when somebody's watching?
Yeah, well, it doesn't tell me who, it just tells me how many viewers. But just so you know, I just sent you the link to
Oh, and that way I can see the comments too.
yeah, you can open that on your phone, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And just mute the sound.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And just mute the sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna use my phone as just like a reference for the chat box.
Yeah, and that way we can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So now the only thing I'm doing is that's awesome. Because I'm just gonna send out this link to a few people.
Awesome. Yeah, that is big that we can share our screen. That's awesome.
I'm just sending out right now just enough. This is our first time. It's very unprofessional, but I'm just sending out a few invites just to see if I can't get a few people to watch and let us know how we sound. But we're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the okay, we have 5 viewers. Woo! I don't know
Dude,
who's
really?
who. Yeah, I mean it says that on my screen. Yeah, so this is like the rough draft. It's actually not even the channel that we're going to be using, but um we're just going to start. And so like Monday and Friday we're going to be doing news related events with regards to the Christian faith, and Tuesday, Thursday we're going to be doing more like word based Bible studies, and so we'll just do that. I'm Travis. Y'all know me. This is my best friend Tyler. For those of you watching, and yeah. So what's up, Tyler?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to For the Word.
Yeah, I mean that's yesterday. I was just like, oh, what are we gonna pick for the name? And For the Word seemed to be like a good choice. So today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of lead us off with regards to like some recent headlines that I've been seeing, and I'm going to do this. Tyler and I are going to do this Monday and Friday, and it'll be more of like the prophetic parts of the Bible. It may not be something that everyone's interested in. Our actual Bible studies, where we just read the Bible and talk about the Bible, is going to be Tuesday, Thursday, and then news-related events that pertain to the Bible will be done Monday and Friday. So let me just go ahead and share my screen here, which I've never done this before, so we'll just see how it goes. So one of the it's funny because I told my family last night that the market is going to crash tomorrow. And my brother was like, "How do you know that it's going to crash tomorrow?" I'm like, "It's going to crash tomorrow." And I'm not any sort of prophet or anything like that. But the last time that Trump said, "Hey, we're going to put a tariff on the Chinese," the market dropped. So it seems pretty reasonable that whenever he comes back and says, "I'm going to do it again," that it would drop. And so what's happening between the United States and China basically is that if we start here, earlier this week, United States announced new tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods. China then responded later in the week saying within hours by announcing $50 billion worth of tariffs on goods to the US. And Trump then responded with, well, if you're going to do that, then we're going to add another 100 billion on goods to you guys. So basically we're in a trade war with China right now. If you can somehow get off the Stormy Daniel news, which is completely irrelevant and not worthy of any of our time, this is actually happening. We're probably at a historic low since maybe World War II, which obviously China wasn't heavily involved in that, but we're probably at a historic low with regards to our relationship between the United States and China and also Russia. And this is not very specific, but obviously in Matthew 24:6-7, you'll hear of wars, you'll hear of rumors of war. It's not the most compelling. It's not the most compelling thing to a non-believer to say, "Oh, there'll be war," because there's always been war. But as we progress with this series and we get into the deeper parts of the Bible, especially with what's going on in Israel and the prophecies that have been foretold. For those that really want to be fed, I think that we're called to do that. And for those that may be interested in just hearing about the Bible for the first time, I think that this will be I think it'll be good for that too. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, no, I think we'll have a little bit of everything because me and Travis kind of talked about how we don't want to get too far off into like just trying to we were basically saying we can't like obsess about the day or the time, obviously, but it's good also. I think God calls us to be aware of what's going on earth, and I'll just share this too, just to follow up what Travis said. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. And then on the other days, we're just gonna kind of let the Holy Spirit take us wherever He wants us to, and we want people to join in, and we want people to, if they have something they want to talk about, they can also comment, but they don't want to be on camera, they can comment in the comment section. But I was just going to read Luke 21:25 real quick, where it says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." That's the New International Version. And then you see the other versions here. But I think that's, I think it's important that we just keep an eye out on that stuff, because he's basically saying, hey, I'm going to be communicating to my people through the stars, through the times where the nations will be in anguish and roarings and tossings of the sea. So it sounds like a bunch of natural disasters, hurricanes. Sounds like Travis was saying, there's going to be war, possibly. I mean, there is, and there's going to be weird signs probably in the sun, moon, and stars. And I'm sure everybody saw the blood moons last year, so that's just something to take a look at too later on, maybe.
It's interesting that you would say that, because this is kind of out of turn, and this is how it works with the word. It's a living, breathing thing. Tyler and I have actually spent the entire day trying to get our computers to work to even have this test run. So we actually didn't have a minute to talk about the content, but I do think that it's really interesting that you would bring that up, because I was going to bring this up later, but I'll just go ahead and do it now. And let me know that you can see my screen, just because this is our first time and I wanted to make sure that, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we did not talk about this beforehand, but the signs in the sky thing, I'm really big on that. And I think that God definitely does communicate with us through the stars and the sky. And I did not know you were going to say that, but I did save this video today as one I wanted to share. And I think everyone will think it's really interesting. This was caught over the sky in Utah this past week. It's an anomaly. You can find a small group of individuals on planet Earth that will say, "Oh, this is exactly what that is. That's a super, whatever 2000." And it's it happens when rain droplets fall in this way, whatever. If you want to subscribe to that, you can subscribe to that. But basically, what this is to me is it's an anomaly in the sky. It's an absolutely beautiful, thing that was captured on a cell phone in Utah. I'm certainly not going to be putting anything out there that hasn't been, I'm not going to get into conspiracy UFO stuff, but this was actually caught by a couple different people in a couple different spots in Utah. And I think it plays, directly into what you were saying, which is there's certainly going to be signs in the sky. I know if I saw that above me, I wouldn't say, oh, that's a water droplet subsidiary of a cloud. I would say, wow, the Lord is talking to me. When if I looked up and I saw that above my head, I would say, wow, I'm getting spoken to right now. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like that in person before in my life.
Yeah, it's really neat. And just the other day with my own phone, I was looking at houses and I saw that big cloud that was like in the letter F, and I took a picture of it. And I thought, oh, I don't know what this means, but something's being said to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it, everywhere it always says, I was talking to Travis earlier, but I don't know how many times, like in Revelation and throughout the Bible, but it is always saying, whoever has eyes, let him see, and whoever has ears, let him hear. So even though we're not supposed to know when he's coming back, when Jesus is supposed to return, it doesn't mean for us to be oblivious to what's going on. And I think it's okay for us to touch on it, and as long as we're actually reading out of the Bible and we're focusing on Scripture, I don't see how anything's wrong with that.
Yeah, and I just think that's neat that you brought that up. And I had just saved that video 3 hours before we started today, but I did want to touch on a couple other stories here, and I wanted to see what you think of it really quickly here. I'm actually not going to get. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. I'm not going to get into too much detail about this particular story, but on Easter, there was a animated film that was shown on the Stephen Colbert Show. It happened on Easter. And one of the quotes from the cartoon that they showed was, "How do grown adults still worship Jesus?" And I'm not going to get it's actually, if you can imagine it being more grotesque than that, if this is something that you want to look up on your own time or whatever, you can, but it's actually, it gets worse from there. But what it says to me is that, and I did highlight this at the bottom of the article, Colbert says he's a practicing Catholic, but this was his idea of Easter programming on the holiest Christian day of the year. So I don't know if there's many fans of Stephen Colbert out there, but I'm certainly, probably going to be tuning him out, as I do with most of the mainstream stuff. So I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, and I think it's pretty bad. And I didn't really want to start a discussion on that one. I just wanted to throw it out there. But the next story I wanted to bring up, and I do think we can both go back and forth on this, is that so Franciscan University attempted to publish a series of Facebook advertisements for its master degree program in theology. The headline reads, Facebook bans Jesus on the cross and Christian college ad for Easter. But what we have here is the university, they're running ads for, hey, get a master's degree. We still do biblical degrees over here. And they use this image here. And Facebook immediately put its foot down, refusing to approve the ad because it contained shocking or sensational or excessively violent content. And since that happened, there was this is not just, I wouldn't be talking about a news story unless it's reported in several different mediums and several different opinions, but this is just, the fact. This is what happened. Now, Facebook later came out and said, we're sorry. And then in quotations here, the university responded by saying, we'll see if it gets rejected again. But, I don't want to get into a he said, she said, this is a telephone type of game, but it certainly appears to me like Facebook is trying to just not allow this type of imagery. I mean, it seems to be like it doesn't give me a good feeling. What about you?
No, and whenever we talked about this for a little bit, I just thought, well, I mean, it was shocking to me, but at the same time, it really wasn't, because,
right,
it's like I've seen way more violent things on Facebook than a picture of Jesus being crucified.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many times where a video pops up and somebody's getting shot or something awful. And me and you talk about how, I mean, and I still have a Facebook account, but I don't think it's healthy for us. And I don't think that they're going to be sensitive to Christianity either.
Yeah, I don't use Facebook pretty much at all. And when I say that, probably I've logged in about a handful of times in the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I often hear that, well, like, and whenever I say to somebody, I'm not being pious, as I am an imperfect human being, a sinner myself, I hear people say, well, we hear what you're saying, but it can be used for good. And the other day, I think it crossed my mind. We just recently upgraded our cell phones, and I have these 2 older phones. I thought, man, I could sell these, if I wanted to deal with some people online. And the thought crossed my mind, is this one of those deals where I could use Facebook for good? I could log in, I could post these phones in the Facebook marketplace in about 2 minutes, and I could probably have them sold in the next hour. But I would not even log in to post the phones to the marketplace, because I knew that if I did, I would just be exposed to a bunch of things that I'm completely not interested in, and that I find to be offensive and also not productive.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to just try to censor ourselves as much as possible. I'm still using Facebook, but I know that, every time we walk around, when you go out to eat or you do anything, you see people stuck on Facebook. And instead, maybe, even though I still have a Facebook account, maybe we should all spend more time doing this, or just reading or getting the alone time with God. Or I just think we get used to it. So, humans like being comfortable, and it's comfortable, and
and I don't actually have an article in front of me. I have read this before. It's something that if
Yeah.
someone's listening, they can go search out for themselves. I do believe what I'm about to say to be true, and I do think that it's readily available on the internet to find. But social media, and this goes for Twitter and Facebook. This was the study that I had recently read. They actually designed their software so that whenever you open up the app and you look at the little notifications window, there's actually a delay there. They've programmed it to where when you open the app, there's nothing. And then there's like this breath that you take as a person would take whenever they pull the handle on a slot machine. Okay. There's like this moment of like anticipation if you're going to hit the jackpot or not, you know. They've programmed it to have a delay, and then boom, it pops up. How many notifications do you have? And the reason that it's programmed that way is because that releases dopamine in the brain, just like it does if you're a gambler, or if you go to the casino or whatever, you pull on the thing, it goes, makes some noises, it spins, and in that moment when you're waiting for it to hit, there's this level of like excitement, and it's an addiction. It creates an addiction. They've actually designed it that way from a software standpoint because they realized, oh, if we just put a small delay, they'll open up the app and they'll think that they had nothing. And then about 3 seconds later, it goes, and it'll show you how many notifications you have. Yeah. I found that to be very telling of what they're all about.
Well, and I think we can be honest with ourselves and say, okay, well, every time my phone goes off, we like subconsciously kind of cringe. You know what I mean? We like, it gives you anxiety, you know, and it's just the noises too that we have related to, maybe you don't hear a noise too. Maybe it works that way too. Maybe if I haven't heard like a notification all day, maybe I'm like, well, nobody cares about me. And so it's like messing with people, messing with these kids. Absolutely. It's messing with our kids' heads, and it's messing with families and everything, you know?
Yeah, and not to get lost on the subject, because I think this is one we could do a whole show about. But I mean, I'm certainly not pious in the sense that I have a Twitter account. I use that primarily for just reading. I had a Snapchat, and then what happened with that was I was like, okay, well, all my family's using it, so I'll just use it for family. But then like the wickedness seems to find its way in. I am watching Snapchats of just my family, but yet then there's this other readily, easily available place within the app where I'm being exposed to just a bunch of sponsored content and pop culture, just not good stuff. Yeah. So I got off of there, and I've never had an Instagram, but like I pretty much just don't. I mean, I use an app called WhatsApp, and I use that to communicate with my family. But the social media, I don't know. It just seems like self-destructive. I mean, if we want to get biblical here for a minute, I'm new to this Jesus thing, okay? And I'm new to the Bible, and I've rejected it for many years in my life, and I am an imperfect, sinning human being that is literally, I probably know about a very small fraction of what Tyler knows about the Bible. But I will say this one hit me about a year ago, and things started changing for me, and it's one of my favorite verses in 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1-5, he says, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people. And I swear this verse, it just calls to me, and it has been for a long time. I had been thinking about this particular verse before I accepted Christ for about 8 months, maybe 9 months, maybe more. Probably, if I would say in the past year, probably up until the end, about 10 months. where I would look at it and I knew what was being said was true, but in my mind, I somehow wanted to justify that it wasn't. And when I look around today, like, people will be lovers of themselves. I mean, I don't know that there's any human being that could sit across from me and you and say, oh, well, men, in the end of times, people will be lovers of themselves. Men have always loved themselves. Yeah, men have always loved themselves as a general statement, okay? And the truth of the matter is, maybe some narcissists around the 1400s in their chariots were lovers of themselves, but we're talking about Facebook. We're talking about Instagram. We're talking about literally posting pictures of yourself all the time, constantly, me. Like, it's never in history been like that. This is the most saturated time of people being lovers of themselves, and also in the verse it says denouncing God, which we'll get to later. I have a bunch of statistics on atheism, but this definitely ties into the social media for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think our generation is called, like, you could pretty much call us the selfie generation, the self-absorbed generation. I think, and that's why I want to do a study on Noah too, because how it talks about how it says in the end times it'll be like how it was in the days of Noah. So I think it would be neat to go back and study, how bad was it in the days of Noah, and how were they? Were they self-absorbed? I know everybody was really evil pretty much, and it was bad. But I'll just add on to what you were saying too. Let me share my screen real quick, because I feel like it might be good to add just to what you were saying. Hold on. So I just was Googling while I was listening to you a little bit.
Yes.
And whenever you said, when you were talking about the selfies and how we're like very self-absorbed, and social media kind of just builds that quality in us instead of being like selfless and humble. And I don't know, it's just, I feel like this kind of goes in hand with it too, I feel like. But anyways, 1 Peter 5, it says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God. That this is King James Version, but that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. So you could keep reading that, but basically, it's saying that we need to be alert, we need to be sober, we need to be vigilant, because that's how he's weakening us. He is doing everything that he can to just distract us from the word, distract us from the truth, distract us from Jesus, distract us from God, whatever.
Absolutely.
And I struggle with it. I like going to the movies. I like doing things like that, and video games, whatever it may be, we all struggle with, but it's all a distraction, And I think you can look at that verse and say, well, he's talking about alcohol, or he's talking about addictions, or, he's saying be sober. But I think be sober can mean several things. I think it can mean just pay attention, have a clear mind, be focused on, the word, be focused on the Holy Spirit, Jesus.
Absolutely.
And I think once we lose our focus, it's real easy just to be like, okay, well, we're clocking.
You can stop. Yeah.
Sorry. We're clocking in and out of work. We're just watching our YouTube, doing our Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Netflix, HBO, and it's just, there's so much. And I feel like in today's day and age, we're just distracted. There's a million things on our phone, including mine.
So I'm actually gonna move us on
Yeah.
to the next story. Let me just share my screen here. So the next story that I wanted to discuss today, for those of you watching, which I don't know how many people are watching, but um, this is like our first rundown here. So we're gonna go into the next story here, and the headline reads: Gender neutral Swedish preschools teach boys to wear dresses. And this is like probably as sensitive as it gets in today's society, because right now it's just like an aggressive outcry for like equality and whatnot. But I think as human beings, everyone has a line that they're going to draw, and hopefully yours is not just, well, I didn't kill anybody. You know what I mean? Because hopefully the majority of us are not murderers. But for myself, that line is a little bit further for me. And now we have this is what I've highlighted here. Now preschools use a variety of techniques to eliminate gender from the classroom and make girls act like boys and vice versa. They prevent kids from playing only with other boys or girls. Boys are sent to play kitchen while girls are practicing shouting no. Preschools now have gender specialists on staff who can address problems like boys refusing to paint or dance, or students drawing eyelashes on only female subjects. And then down here, here's one of the teachers saying, it feels like a responsibility for her to tell them that by dressing girls in pink and boys in blue, they are making a mistake. And that's pretty much all I have on that. But I'd certainly like to know where she thinks it's a responsibility to tell little boys and girls that they are, not little boys and girls. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know. And we can just toss the Bible aside for a second. Like, where is this coming from? Like, this does not make any. When I see a story like this, I almost like I have to like I literally have to pretend